What's up YouTube, it's your boy PJ who's back with another video. So today, I want to talk about teams that have to make a move this offseason. I'm not going to include young teams like the Celtics or the Kings or the Grizzlies. They have time to develop within. They can make moves later down the line, but they're not immediate. They don't have the clock ticking against them. But some of these other teams I want to mention, they have to make moves now this offseason. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow, and do all that good stuff, and now let's get into the video. At number 5, I have a team that's actually in the NBA Finals. I have the Miami Heat. Miami Heat needs to make a move this offseason. We saw that they can get through the East. They had some troubles. They did play a few injured teams, but to be honest with you, they were injured as well. So it's not a knock on them whatsoever. However, with that being said, when they got to the Nuggets, it's very clear of two things. One, they had no one big enough to contain Nikola Jokic. Not that anyone could really contain him, but no one really gave him a problem considering his averages in the finals. And two, they need another scorer. Funnily enough, they messed up this opportunity. They could have got Bradley Beal recently, but they didn't give enough because they didn't see him as the long-term solution. They reportedly want Damian Lillard, to which I say, one, is he really want to leave Portland because he has good money, he has his family, he's comfortable there. Why would he want to leave? And he's not leaving now, I don't think so. And that's kind of a huge bet to take when they could have got someone like Bradley Beal, because I think they had a better offer than Phoenix, to be honest with you. And it was also reported that Bradley Beal just wants to be on a winning team, so it didn't matter too much what team he went to, but they missed on that opportunity. However, the issue still stands. Jimmy Butler's a great player, he's a great defender, he's a great leader, and he's a pretty good playmaker as well. However, him being your number one offensive creator, the only one you can rely to get a shot over the top, isn't going to cut anymore. They need another person who can get his own bucket, who can ISO, not score within the context of the offense and the coaching scheme. Because we saw that Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Caleb Martin, they can score. They can score pretty good on NBA level. However, that's more coaching. It's more play design. That's more Eric Spoelstra's mastermind. They need someone who can go out there and be their own mastermind, give the team themselves a bucket. I meant to say get a bucket on your own, but I'm saying the Heat because their time is limited. Jimmy Butler is getting older in age. I feel like that Kyle Lowry is going to leave, that they aren't really going to have as many pieces to trade in the future. I mean, how many times are you going to have Tyler Hero, who has this potential on the upside, but they don't know he's going to be quite yet. Once he gets like 3 or 4 years on the line and he's just still Tyler Hero that he is now, you're not going to be able to trade him for as much, but now he's still young. You might be able to get something good for him still. I don't think they're going to trade any of them, but this is a team on my list, however. They didn't make the finals. It's not that they're like a horrible team, but if they want to win, their window seems to be now with Bam and Butler and Hero, although I will say their timeline's a bit weird because Hero is on the younger side, Butler's on the older side, and Bam's like entering his prime, so like, how do they really manage that with 3 different timelines of the 3 best players? I don't know. But I do think they can make a move to get a better player. I wish it was Bradley Beal. Maybe they can go for Zach LaVine. Dame would be amazing, but I just don't see him as an option. Let's get to number 4, though. At 4, I have a team that the Heat took out in the playoffs, and I'm going to say the first round of the playoffs as well, the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Milwaukee's a pretty interesting team. They're the 1 seed, obviously, and everyone thought they would steamroll either the Bulls or the Heat. However, as we all know, they lost in 5 games. Now, some of that is due to Giannis being injured, missing the heart of Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3. Coming back in Game 4 and Game 5, not fully healthy, but he did play and did still lose in embarrassing fashion in both of those games, having leads in the 4th quarter. However, with that being said, there are changes that need to be made. The Bucks are an old team. They don't have as many young athletic wings as the Celtics or really any of the other good teams in the NBA. They need wing play. Any wing can kill them. The Celtics killed them in the regular season with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Saw what Jimmy Butler did. They're pretty weak in that position, although Giannis and Brook Lopez and Drew Holiday, all defensive players, it's just not enough anymore. I need role players who are younger, more athletic, and can shoot a little bit better. I feel like I should say score a little bit better. They can shoot, but they're not like ISO scorers. They're all like catch and shoot, hit the shot after Giannis passes it, which isn't bad, but they have to get Giannis another person besides him. Chris Middleton is not that guy right now. Maybe it's because he was still dealing with some of the injuries. Maybe next season he'll go back to what he was in that 2021 finals. But if not, they need another secondary scorer next to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because as good as Giannis is, he does have some deficiencies within his offensive game. He's not the best shooter. He's not the best free throw shooter. And because of that, teams can scheme around him. And we saw that in the playoffs, that the Heat were able to scheme around him. Even though he had 38 and 20, they didn't win the game, so it didn't really matter too much. There's a reason, even though it was brief, that Bradley Beal was an option for the Bucks because they know they need another scorer like that. Imagine them with a Zach LaVine type of player, someone who can get their own bucket, who can take some pressure off of Giannis. They'll have someone in that wing position to give them a bucket. As for the defensive end, they could use a 3D player, but I feel like that is secondary on the list of things that need to change. I think number 1 is that secondary score because Drew Holiday is not going to cut in the playoffs anymore. I don't know if he really ever did. Neither is Chris Middleton. So having Giannis, a deficient scorer, even though he is efficient, but a scorer with deficiencies is your number 1 option. And number 2, who's not really that guy yet. I don't know how far you can go in the future. And I think that their window's closing. As I said, they're old. Even if they kick Brook Lopez, he's going to get older. Chris Middleton's getting older. Drew Holiday's getting older. And this is a big 3 that was a number 1 seed. This roster construction was a number 1 seed. They have to go all in right now. As they did with Drew Holiday, they got a championship. And 1 championship isn't good. I feel like that most fan bases and front offices can be like, okay, we got 1 chip. That's enough because they did get 3 first-round picks for Drew Holiday. So I understand from that perspective. I'm sure that the organization and Giannis himself wants more than that, and because of that, they're going to have to go a little bit deeper in their back and try and get some younger talents, more athletic talent. And even if it's not like a Zach LaVine, just a younger players like Lonnie Walker for the Lakers. I feel like he'd be good on the Bucks. He can score. He's athletic. They just need some youth, some quickness. They can't get outrun by teams. They have to have another wing on the court, which I could give a better example. Maybe Andrew Wiggins or Andrew Wiggins player or OG Anunoby or what Aaron Gordon was, like someone who in that wing position who can check somebody who's not going to get cooked the whole time. So number 3, I have the Golden State Warriors, and I want you guys to know I'm a Warriors fan. You could argue that they are number 1 on this list, but I do believe they're 3 right now. They have to make some changes. They have to do something to be able to get Steph Curry in this organization another ring. I think a few of the problems lie in the fact that Steph Curry creates all of the offense. Well, that's number 1 at least. And honestly, as good as Curry is, we saw this in the Lakers series, he can't do it all by himself. There are some limitations as a 6'3 guard. He needs to have someone next to him. They can't rely on guard scoring alone. Because we saw that Poole and Clay, when they went cold, the biggest couldn't do anything because they had 2 non-shooters, which allowed them to like harass Curry on the pick and roll. AD could come out, the guard come out, and they didn't work because Draymond Green and Kevon Looney were the ones there, and they can't shoot and they can't do that much on their own offensively. So I think they need to create like a stretch 4 or stretch 5. They need to have 4 shooters on the court at all times. Having 3 in today's NBA is just not going to work. Secondly, I think Klay Thompson is they're too reliant on Klay Thompson's offense as well. I just don't think he's that guy anymore. I think he can be a good player, and I think the right move, to be honest with you, is say, hey, Klay, you're not the number 2 anymore. You can be our 3 or our 4. Now, I know that some Warriors fans and some fans in general have some pushback to this, and I feel like the fact that pushback is valid because, he had the Warriors help them to 4 championships. Like, how do you tell a guy like that, nah, you just got to sit on the bench? So I understand that. I understand that he has some ego as a basketball player, but I think at this point in his career, he just can't be that guy right now, at least in the playoffs. In the regular season, he was great. He helped the Warriors get to the 6th seed while Curry was out, while Wiggins was out, and he played amazingly. But I think it's shown that people can scheme out his three-point shooting, and they top lock him, and then what can he really do? And I think that that's something they have to seriously think about. Secondly, Jordan Poole. Now, personally, Jordan Poole's issues don't bother me a whole lot, or I don't give him a whole lot of blame because I think that Draymond Green punch really threw him off a lot. I think people underrate the fact that that's like some psychological damage that probably happened to him. He got punched for all the world to see, and the organization didn't even punish him. So I think that can really affect his play. But even with that being said, him playing next to Steph Curry just doesn't work. If he plays next to Curry, it's 2 not great all-ball defenders. Although I think Curry's a good team defender, Jordan Poole's not even good at that. He's not a good off-ball or on-ball, which is weird considering how quick he is, but he's just not. With that being said, they can't have him on the court next to Curry, so they have to make a trade there. And I think that they want to keep him, and I understand it because I do believe if he gets traded, he's going to be an all-star at some point in his career. But I think sometimes you have to be like, all right, Curry's 34. How much longer does he really have to get a championship as the number 1 option? I think you have to maximize it. And I think the roster, they failed this season. They kept Moody, they kept Kuminga, they drafted PBJ Rollins, Guy Santos, even though he was on the roster. Trade those picks. I don't know what trades were available, but I'm sure there was something they could have gotten. They need to build around Curry. They can't build 2 timelines. It just doesn't work. Every team that with the Warriors playing in the playoffs, besides like the young teams, like in general, like the Kings, like they're just a young team. But all the true contenders have older players, have veterans. And they have to realize that they can't win trying to build for the future and the past. No, I mean the future and the present. So it just doesn't work. And then the Draymond Green extension, I feel like they should re-sign him. I know some people say that they shouldn't. I think you have to re-sign Draymond. You can't win a championship without a great defense, except for the Nuggets because they're just unstoppable offensively, and they play some great defense when it counted. They really did good in the finals, especially Nikola Jokic, who's pegged as a bad defender. But I think you absolutely have to keep Draymond Green. So with that being said, you need a center, or maybe slot in Kuminga at the 4. I know he can probably shoot a little bit better now instead of the growth spurt, so might as well try that. And trying to Kuminga is something that I don't fully agree with because, one, I think he's a great player. I know I just kind of contradicted myself, but I think he's a young player who can contribute now. I think at last season when I didn't know that, I should have traded him, but now I don't know who you're trading him for who's like, yeah, this guy's going to help us win right now and then not be as good. It's going to be much better than Kuminga. Kuminga gives you defense, he gives you athleticism, he gives you rim pressure. Why not keep him? Unless you're trading for Lauri Markkanen, which I saw some people say, which is possible. If trading for OG Anunoby, I don't think he moves the needle. I don't think he does. I don't think he can score good enough by himself to where the fact you get Jordan Poole and Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think that makes much sense. Don't think it makes much sense. But with that being said, the Warriors are number 3. They need to make a move for a stretch 5 or another, like a Bradley Beal type of player, maybe a Zach LaVine. Someone who can get their own shots out of Steph Curry, preferably a wing or a shooting guard, and then a center that can at least shoot a little bit so they respect them. But let's get to number 2. Now, the debate between these top 2 teams, between which one's 1, which one's 2, because both of them honestly have to do some of this offseason to make sure their championship windows maximize. But at 2, I picked the Los Angeles Lakers. I picked the Lakers for a few reasons. One, LeBron's entering season 21, I believe. And that's a lot of NBA games. A lot of mileage, number one leading scorer of all time. His body's not going to hold out for too much longer. I know he's a super freak, but father time gets everyone eventually, and you have to try and win now. With that being said, what they can do is get a player. I know I keep saying his name out, but like Zach LaVine, for him to be someone who's available in trade, I think that he fit a lot of teams. I don't think the Lakers can because of salary, but someone who can get a shot over the top, someone who can ISO shot making. That's why I lost to the Nuggets, because Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray had some ridiculous shot making. They don't have a lot of shot making. They have people who can hit some catch and shoot threes. No one can really no one's going to get a Steph Curry bucket or Devin Booker bucket or Bradley Beal, like mid-range, pull-up, jump shooter. They don't have that really. They have a lot of guys who can play their roles, who can play scrappy defense, who can get out a fast break. But they're not that team that's going to have someone who's going to, in a set offense, going to cook you isolation, going to cook you in the pick and roll pull-up jumper. Like LeBron's great, but LeBron being your number one option in 2023 and 2024 when the playoffs hit is just not going to cut anymore. They need someone else on that roster. Considering all the salaries they're going to have once they re-sign all their players, which they will do so they can trade, they're going to re-sign Russell, Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, because they have all different size contracts that they can trade for a star player, for like a fringe star player. I think at the trade deadline, more for them than the offseason, they're going to make some changes. They need someone next to LeBron and AD. They just do. They need a center, really, I believe. Miles Turner would be a great fit. I was talking about for a while. Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, really, they both fit great with the Lakers. It's funny that they didn't get that trade done for Westbrook, and both of them would have greatly impacted them. Because you think about it, the Lakers didn't even use their additions in the playoffs too much. Jarred Vanderbilt, he got played off the court. D'Angelo Russell was so bad he got played off. Malik Beasley was so bad he got played off. And Mo Bamba didn't play. That's just crazy thing about how much Russell Westbrook didn't fit their system, that even him off the court was an addition by subtraction. But yeah, I'm very curious about what they do in the offseason and before the trade deadline. Their playoff roster for 2024 is going to look very different than it is now, I believe. And that's a good thing. They have to try and win now, LeBron James. And my number one team, I don't think it should be too much of a surprise if it is. Sorry about that, and I'll explain why. I have the Suns at number one as the teams that have to make another move. Now, this video is coming out after the Bradley Beal trade, which honestly, you may be thinking, why would they need to make another move? They have three, so guys who can get their own bucket, 325 PPG scores. With that being said, for max contracts, to be honest with you, they need depth. As we saw by the Nuggets this year, role players, continuity, defense, teamwork, team offense is how you get a championship right now. With the Warriors last year, they didn't have a whole bunch of guys who can go get a bucket. They had guys who are stars in their roles, guys who could do what they need to do. And they got Gary Payton playing defense. They had Bruce Brown doing what he needs to do. Both of those teams that won recently had role players doing what they need to do. The Suns don't have role players. And I think they got back Jordan Goodwin and Isaiah Todd, which are underrated for two reasons. One, I think Jordan Goodwin's actually good at basketball. He's a pretty good defender, not a horrible inside the arc, and he's a pretty good playmaker as well. And secondly, they just need bodies. How do they want to get 10 veteran minimums? That's what they had before Jordan Goodwin and Isaiah Todd. Now it's going to be 8, which I think is a bit of a difference in having people on your roster. So that's an underrated addition with the two of them in that trade. With that being said, though, I think the fact that the Suns don't have a real point guard, they don't have a center, they don't have anyone on the bench who can do some dirty work. They don't have any great defenders, to be honest with you. And a criticism that I don't agree with is they say that they can't play together, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And I just completely disagree with that notion. All three of them can play great off ball. And Devin Booker, when Chris Paul's in play, has shown he can be a primary facilitator. He just likes to win. They all like to win. So I think they have enough playmaking between the three of them. Maybe they don't need a point guard, but it would be a good addition. But they do need another center because DeAndre Ayton just can't play defense. If they trade him, who do you realistically get? If you try to trade him to the Pacers for maybe Miles Turner, I think that'd be a great addition. But then again, your second unit is going to be horrible. They're not going to hang with any second unit because they're going to be all veteran minimum contracts. And I think they have to make a move with DeAndre Ayton, or I don't know how else they could do it, but something to get some other players on that roster who can do something, like a Bruce Brown, a Gary Payton, as I mentioned. A few years ago, Pat Connaughton. They need players on their roster who aren't their top players to do the dirty work, to play defense, to box out, to rebound. That's a lot of pressure you're putting on Bradley Beal, Burke, and KD's offensive players and defensive players. And Booker's not a bad defender. Beal isn't as bad as people say he is. If you've seen some of his tape, he's not disgusting, but it's not a strong suit at all. Kevin Durant can be a passable playoff defender, even good at times. But with the offensive production they have to do, is that what you really want to rely on? And I highly doubt that. So they need some other players on that roster. And I think they're number one because all the money on their salary, the fact that KD's getting older, I think that they have to try and win now. But with that being said, that's the end of the video. Those are my 5 teams that have to make a move this offseason or before the 2024 playoffs. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and have a great day.